Why do most Europeans hate the British? What do you see when you watch this video? Why did the Scots cheer and celebrate so unanimously for the Italian football team to win against England? Why did they show affection for the boot-shaped country instead of their 1,000-year-old neighbor? I will analyze and explain this clearly to you in the next part, so please remember this detail. I absolutely believe that Britain will be stronger, safer, and especially more stable after leaving the European Union. Those were the words of former British Prime Minister David Cameron when the UK officially held a referendum on the issue that people will later remember as Depressus. A great event not only of national or regional scale, but also an unexpected move on the global political chessboard. But perhaps it did not need this event because the Europeans' trust in Britain was not great. For a long time in history until now, Britain has rarely received favorable views from the people of the continent. To say bluntly that Europeans hate Britain is somewhat one-sided and lacking in objectivity. But the reality is that deep down inside each European country, this problem is nothing new. The discomfort with the foggy island has been and still is the common view of many Europeans. Many people in the world only see the depression event as the biggest cause of this problem. That the lack of responsibility for common issues and only knowing how to worry about its own interests makes the image of the UK ugly in the eyes of international friends and especially in Europe. And especially the dialogue process took too long, taking nearly 5 years, making EU countries feel extremely tired. However, the story of Depressus was really just the last straw. The event itself did not contribute significantly to the negative views of the UK among Europeans. And this is evident in the figures from surveys within Europe after the Depression. The latest research by the political research and consultancy firm Redfield and Winton shows that the Depression did not have a significant impact on Europeans' views of the UK. Polls in France, Germany, Italy, and Spain show that attitudes towards the UK, including thoughts and feelings about the UK, remain the same. In all 4 countries, people indicated that leaving the EU would not change their views of the country. Around 55% of respondents in France said their views of the UK had not changed since Depressus. Meanwhile, in Germany and Spain, there is a similarity, reaching the threshold of 47%. In Italy, the number of people agreeing with this view reaches 45%. From this, we can draw a conclusion that depression is not the specific cause of the unfriendly attitude between Europeans and the British. Instead, the event served as a spark that had been burning for years. That fire included some of the biggest pillars of European views of Britain, including its history and conflict with Europe and the British character. There has long been a saying in Europe that a country with gloomy weather does not produce any intelligent people. It is unclear whether it is intentional or not, but this saying seems to refer to England. Because in contrast to the beautiful, clear climate of the European sky, England has gloomy, humid, and rainy weather all year round. In the eyes of Europeans and even globally, the British are often seen as a somewhat dirty country. That's an understatement. I know many of my friends in Europe who consider the British to be quite uncultured and are allergic to this country. Indeed, British tourists are always a thorn in the side of the European natives. It is quite relaxed to the point of being messy, especially when drunk. It is easy to identify a British guest, even without hearing their distinctive accent. It is the red face accompanied by the smell of beer or whiskey around them. In contrast to the extremely polite attitude in socializing with others, the British are too comfortable with themselves. Unlike the attention to appearance and neatness in dressing of other European countries, such as France, Germany, Spain, and especially Italy, the British are considered to have the most sloppy dressers. Not only that, there is a rather interesting problem in the language. Many British people have a rather indifferent attitude towards learning foreign languages. This syndrome is not too difficult to understand when English is clearly the most popular language in the world, and is a necessary skill for any international citizen in this era. However, being born with such a huge advantage makes many British people feel that there is no need to learn another foreign language. This thinking may seem normal to some people. They simply think that with the popularity of their mother tongue, they can live anywhere without knowing a second language. However, it is completely opposite to this, especially the view of Europeans. Most of them know 2 or more languages. In their eyes, the British's laziness in learning foreign languages is a form of conceit, relying on the glory of the British Empire and especially the colonial character that looks down on other nations around them. This is also the perfect connection with the Brexit incident, which makes Europeans see more clearly that the British themselves do not have much sympathy for the common difficulties that Europe faces. The arrogant and especially self-flattering character of the British people, and especially the British media, has long made Europeans feel uncomfortable. During a meeting of the European Council during the Brexit negotiations, Nigel Farage, representing the UK, loudly challenged the remaining countries and even bluntly said that the US is not a country, but an artificial product. Perhaps that is why they like being part of the EU. Brexit was the first brick removed from the statue. People have not learned anything. The EU project is coming to an end. We want to live as a nation, not as an artificial construct. Let us not speak for the moment of the truth or falsity of this remark. However, it is clear that demeaning an entire country, or more importantly, the goal of European harmony, is an act that causes deep displeasure. When it comes to the aspect of the sport they love most, football, the arrogance is even more evident. With pride in being the father of the most popular sport in the world. This country does not hide and always believes that English football is number 1. It has become a tradition. Every time the English team takes the field, the press of this country praises them to the sky with beautiful words such as Dream Team or the world's number 1 stars going into battle. Perhaps it is the arrogance and the self-conceited chant of football coming home that has led to England memes like this, and this. And it is no surprise that all of Europe celebrated enthusiastically when Italy won on England's home turf. The world is truly a very interesting and strange place, isn't it? In the eyes of Europeans, England is a country without any official roots, characterized by being an island far away, and the majority of its inhabitants coming from the interior of the continent. Even the name England itself carries the connotation of a race not originally from this misty isle. The name England comes from the Old English word eng, la land, meaning the land of the Anglais. So, where did these Anglais people come from? This is probably the question you are asking, right? The answer is that this people were one of the Jackman tribes that settled in Britain during the early Middle Ages. The Anglais people came from the Amsterdam Peninsula in the Gulf of Kiel in the Baltic Sea. Even according to anthropologists, the English language today comes from the Jackman language. The specific records of this island come from the Roman Empire. In the eyes of the most powerful kingdom in ancient history, this was a land of barbarians who went to battle naked, with war cries and strange customs. For the Romans, conquering this land and turning it into the province of Britannia was a move that brought civilization to this land that was still lacking in culture. Thus, we see that unlike other countries in Europe today, although Britain has traces of ancient humans discovered in this country dating back about 500,000 years ago, but with the characteristics of being a remote island with little reception and interaction with early civilizations in the continent, this country is considered prehistoric. This is a detail that makes Britain lose points in the eyes of Europeans who are very proud of their origins. After the Western Roman Empire collapsed around the year 400, their military forces also withdrew from the province of Britannia. From here, the British Isles became a boiling battlefield between different ethnic groups. Initially, there were groups with strong roots, such as Anglais and Anglo-Saxon. Around the 9th century, there were waves of Vikings coming from northern Europe to invade and subjugate. If at this time, history was recorded very specifically in European countries inside the continent, then outside the British Isles, everything was still a mess. Contemporary accounts of this period are extremely rare, leading to its description as a dark century. It was only temporarily brought to an end by the accession of a Frenchman to the throne and the rule of England, William the Conqueror of Normandy. Ironically, England owed much of its stability to its later conflicting neighbor, France. This conquest left the British elite almost completely disenfranchised and replaced by a new aristocracy that despised France. Not only that, many members of the current British royal family have roots in the Dutch House of Orange-Nassau. It is no coincidence that Europeans often regard Britain as a country without roots. During the Hundred Years' War with France in the 14th and 15th centuries, England often had great victories, the most notable of which was the Battle of Quiddick. The longbows that helped the English win the battle went down in history as the pride of this island nation. However, fighting against the spirit of chivalry was looked down upon by the mainlanders. And more importantly, it was the British who were ultimately defeated, despite their petty tactics. Until the age of exploration, when European nations rushed to the open sea, Britain did not miss the opportunity to expand with its island advantage. Over hundreds of years, the British built a kingdom that spanned the world. At the height of their power, they were the largest empire in human history, covering 25% of the world's landmass and commanding over 500 million people. Obviously, the fact that Britain had the advantage of being an island nation, facilitating exploration and conquest, did not make the Europeans very happy. However, the truth was that because of objective reasons, there was nothing they could do. However, it was the extremely petty actions of this country that made the people inside the continent extremely uncomfortable. One of them was that the British Crown granted the notorious pirates of that time the right to plunder cargo ships, especially Spanish gold and treasures returning from the world. That was 10% of the total amount of gold that Spain took back from its South American colonies. The most prominent is Francis Decker, famous for his daring robberies of Spanish merchant fleets, bringing treasure back to the Old World. The amount of material wealth that this pirate captain brought back to England was so much that it was enough to cover the cost of building the fleet, and he himself was knighted by Queen Elizabeth I. And this made Spain extremely angry, so they sent their entire Amanda fleet to attack the Foggy Isle. However, they lost miserably, which made England even more hated. We can summarize through historical facts that Britain is an island nation with a population that originally came from the continent. Its culture and way of life have had little influence on the continent. However, despite its geography, the country's leaders have always liked to get involved in continental politics. This creates an unfavorable perspective. In conclusion, no matter how hard we try to ignore it, we cannot deny that there is a large number of Europeans who have an unfavorable view of the United Kingdom. From history to the present, the mainland people have always considered this island nation a very strange part of themselves. What about you? What do you think is the reason why the United Kingdom is so hated? Leave a comment below.